This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect.
We actually had one creative organization that fed in their gala attendees that were coming for their upcoming gala and used the interest to curate the auction items for their auction. And they saw a significant increase in how much money they were able to raise on that year's auction as compared to previous auctions.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Shawn Olds, co-founder and CEO at boodleAI. Hello, Shawn. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, I'm excited too to talk about boodleAI. And as you know, I recently started using boodleAI in my consulting practice at Aspire. But before we jump into what it does and why it's so cool, I want to hear about your backstory. Like, what journey did you take to end up at co-founding boodleAI?
Well, it definitely was not a conventional path. I started at college at United States Military Academy, West Point, was actually a computer science major, but I will not take anything away from my team. The languages I programmed in back then, they now teach in the history of computers class. So I have a wonderful team that has developed this platform. I went into the Army. Part of going into the Army, though, literally first week after I got out of West Point, I went onto my first nonprofit board focused on youth education. It's just something I've been very passionate about. And for 25 years now, I've always served on some sort of youth education board. That was my first kind of delve into the nonprofit space. I served my time in the Army, and after getting out, went into the entrepreneurial world, building companies. And aside from a brief stint back in government service after September 11th, where I spent a good deal of time in Southwest Asia and Africa, I've been working on building companies, both domestically and internationally, mostly tech focused. It was about 5 years ago, my co-founder, who I went to West Point with, but didn't know, but we met in the U.S. Army Ranger School together, came to me with the idea of Boodle. And it was born out of a frustration he had, also as a board member for a nonprofit, of how ineffective and inefficient fundraising was. And the genesis of Boodle was literally born on a lunch on that ubiquitous back of a napkin, where we both posited the fact as entrepreneurs who have raised a lot of money in the private sector, that there's got to be a way to leverage technology to make it easier. I tell people, over the past 18 months with the pandemic, most of us have been on Zoom calls nonstop. And I've made the wager with people, a good bottle of wine and a nice steak dinner, that 90% of the people they speak to could not explain how video over IP works. But they don't have to, because Zoom has made it a press of a button and you're able to do it. And that was our goal when we built Boodle, was to be able to bring machine learning and AI to nonprofits at the press of a button, where they didn't need to go to hire people with masters in statistics or PhDs in data science. And that's what we've done.
You certainly have. And I really want to take a second here to shout out to Natalia Pearson. She's an Institute member and she's one of your clients.
She's a wonderful client.
She is. She really is a power user, clearly. And in one of our master classes, she was sharing about boodleAI, actually in multiple master classes. And that's what got me hooked. I really had to learn, what are you talking about, Natalia? What do you mean you use boodleAI? What is that? And she explained it that Boodle is leveraging outside data, really big data, matching things down to IP addresses, kind of big data, and providing insights on an organization's constituency, which is very different in approach from other providers out there focusing on fundraising. Why did you take that kind of approach?
So you're absolutely right. We did try and take a different approach. A lot of people don't recall this, but Google was actually the 18th search engine. And I guess my partner and I just didn't believe the way people were doing predictive analytics that we could make it any better. There's some very good predictive analytics platforms out there, but they tend to either focus solely on wealth, or they focus on something that's called intent-based data. So they're going to look at what website have they been on? How long have they been on that website? What did they tweet most recently? And those are all really good indicators on finding out, is a person going to make a donative decision in the next 24, 48, or 72 hours? We wanted to take a little bit different approach, because as you know, the statistic that 80% of all first-time donors don't come back. And so you've got development teams that are really struggling to find out who is that 20%. And what we wanted to do was find more of that 20%. So what we set out to do with the data we brought in was really look at a person's affinity for a particular cause. Because people can have all the capacity in the world, but if they don't care about the cause, they're not going to give. Or if they do give because they get pressured into it, they're not going to come back. But if we can find people who have a true affinity for a cause, their likelihood of staying and becoming part of that 20% that becomes a lifetime donor is something we wanted to focus on. So to your point, when we work with an organization, we know that nonprofits have very limited data, usually very skinny data, or they'll claim they have very messy data. So core to our technology stack, which we spent 4 years, $4 million building, have over 20 patents pending on it, core to it is identity resolution. So being able to go in and find the Shawn Olds that is in the donor database and identify him as a Shawn Olds in Tysons, Virginia, and not the Shawn Olds in, say, Boise, Idaho. And then what we do is we map me out to 3 third-party databases we have access to of all 240 million Americans, and we bring back over 1,200 different data points about me. But again, these data points are affinity-based data points, where a person's lived for the past 10 years, where they've worked for the past 10 years, voting records, who they've donated to politically and philanthropically, all data that is sitting out there, but not obtainable by most nonprofits. And then when we're able to bring that all back into an enriched data set, it allows us to build algorithms about a cohort of people and allow them to see better what they're looking for. So we can build a cohort of major gift donors. We can build a cohort of monthly recurring donors. We can build a cohort of people who have donated more than 3 years, and then allow people to look for individuals who have that same affinity.
Wow. So that was 4 million well spent, because that's a really difficult task. And as our country, as the globe is moving towards digital giving, where, larger gifts are coming in, first-time donors are coming in digital first, and then crossing over to other channels, this has been a struggle for me. When someone comes to me and says, I have name and email address and nothing else, I've said to them, well, that's going to be expensive because we have to search by hand for that, manually look. But here with Boodle, that matching is there. Like, I can submit a list to you with email and address, or either or of those two, and still get results. And you have great affinity results, but your wealth results are also spot on, which is pretty powerful. So we're putting those two together and then leaving the giving data to the organization that owns it. It's pretty amazing. I'm just wowed by this, and that it's accessible as, like, I can upload the information on your platform and get these results and export that information. I can manipulate it on your platform and export that. And that's also really different from the way I've seen other AI products, or as much as I understand, other AI products. That's pretty cool. That's just tremendously powerful. Is that the feedback you're getting?
I appreciate it, and it is. I sometimes joke, because we offer as a growing SaaS company, you want people to use the platform independently, but you also want to know what customers are thinking. And so we probably go a little bit more overboard on our customer success in interacting with the client, because we want to hear their feedback. I sometimes joke that I'm probably going to have to start adding therapy as a medical benefit for my customer success team, because they feel dejected. Because you've seen how easy the platform is. Although the customer success team will work with our clients as long as they want, after the second or third project that they engage in, they usually kick our customer success team to the curb and move out on their own. But that was our goal. That was the hope, was to create something that, when I sat down with the development team 5 years ago, I said, assume that our end user knows how to Google, watch Netflix, and order on Amazon. If the UI is any more difficult than that, we've got to make it that easy. And that's what we've endeavored to do.
Sweet. It shows. That's for sure.
Thank you.
There's a little bit of a language barrier. I remember I had to learn some of the words, like the guide-ons and things. But once I saw it and was explained, then presto, we're on it.
It all made sense.
Can you tell me, what else is boodleAI doing that can have a big impact on prospect research professionals?
Yeah. So what our organizations or clients we've been working with, and we've reached that kind of fun spot as entrepreneurs, where our clients are starting to teach us how to use our platform. So we, as you saw on the platform, one of the first things we've done, we build the platform into that crawl, walk, run experience, the crawl being that personas page. So you upload your list. of several thousand donors, best donors, whatever it may be. And within minutes, we're giving you a persona report about that list, what gender it skews to, what political affiliation, the DMA they fall in. And if you remember, at the very bottom of that persona page is their interest list. And what organizations are able to do is use those interests as they build their creative, as they do their ad buys, as they buy lists. We actually had one creative organization that fed in their gala attendees that were coming for their upcoming gala and used the interest to curate the auction items for their auction. And they saw a significant increase in how much money they were able to raise on that year's auction as compared to previous auctions. The research also goes down when you're doing prospect research on one of the big campaigns we love to run is what we call a hidden gems campaign. I call it a little bit of cheating because every organization has really powerful opportunities that just haven't been engaged in their email newsletter list and their low donor list. So we did this with Charity Navigator. They fed in their list of, I believe it was 850 major gift donors. The system built them a model within a few hours. And then they applied that model into their donors who had donated less than $100. And the system was able to send up about a dozen names. And one of the first names on the list after a phone call made a $20,000 donation.
Oh my gosh.
So those type of people exist. We just don't, when you've got a massive database, you don't know who they are and what messaging you should be used to get to them, unless you can narrow down and really prioritize your prospects.
That's true when you have a very large database or when you have very few staff and you have to do everything. Same kind of scenario. And that whole notion of like, anytime you're trying to build a list or find the best prospects for an initiative like the gala, like, wow, that's such a creative use. Yes, I always say that about our typical wealth screening. Use it for everything. Once you have scores, you can really use them for everything. But the interests in curating the auction items, oh my goodness, that's amazing.
I love learning. Every day I get to learn. So it was neat seeing someone come up with the idea.
That's the coolest. I have an Institute member question for you, Shawn. This one comes from Brian Campbell, and he's asking if boodleAI can help test the perceived philanthropic strength of any particular donor constituency. So he says, the US government has a continuity of government plan. Can boodleAI help an organization create a continuity of philanthropy plan?
So again, was not designed as a tool to do that, but definitely could be. The tool can be leveraged in multiple ways. And that's our hope, is that organizations figure out what way is going to be best for them. In this particular case, what you're looking at is, okay, if there's two scenarios I would interpret from that question. One is we hit a major life event. We hit a pandemic. We hit a recession. I'm going to lose some donors. Are my core donors going to be enough to allow us to continue operations? And how do I attract or really focus on who those core donors are? And how the platform would work in that sense is you take a look at previous years that you've gone through this, and we've all just gone through this with a pandemic. Who are the people who were your true donors through the pandemic? You model those individuals, and now you apply that to your overall donor set. And now what you're able to say is, hey, if we're heading into a recession, these are the people who are with us through the pandemic. These should be the people who are able to stay with us, and have the development team focus on that. The second issue you could run into is where you have a major gift donor, a very significant major gift donor, who passes away or decides that their views are not being met and they don't want to give to the organization anymore. Is their major gift being taken away every year? Are you as an organization still able to sustain? And that's the ability. That's the core of what our platform really wanted to do. While we can help with major gifts, and we do help a lot with major gifts, it's really in building that donor database up. As you know, any organization would much rather have 10 $10,000 donors than $100,000 donor, because if one of the $10,000 donors disappears, you've still got a good sustained base. And so what we would leverage our platform to do is help them build up that individual giving capacity and concentrate more on the individual donors than on the amount, rather than being reliant on that one individual.
And that's with those affinity markers and interests.
Exactly.
They're pretty powerful.
Yep.
Wild. Well, before I let you go, how can people find you online? And do you have any recommended resources for researchers to learn more about machine learning and AI for fundraising?
Absolutely. So reaching Boodle is BOODLE.ai. And I can be reached at Shawn at boodle.ai. That's SHAWN, and always happy to help anyone. I'll be honest, when we bring new people onto the organization who, maybe in non-scientific roles, marketing, customer success, one of the first areas we usually send them to is the Udemy courses at online. There's several free courses that allow people to get a little bit better understanding. There are actually, if you search well, there are a few good YouTube videos as well. But again, the whole genesis of Boodle was so that people don't need to dig into that. If you're really good at development and you know development inside and out, let Boodle do the hard and heavy lifting for you so that you can go continue to focus on what you're good at, which is interactions with donors and donor relations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
That was Shawn Olds, co-founder and CEO at boodleAI. You can find the company at www.boodle.ai. That's B as in baby, OO, D as in David, LE.ai for artificial intelligence, of course. How exciting is it that there are entrepreneurs and otherwise very smart people focused on leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence to produce great nonprofit fundraising outcomes? No more business or finance hand-me-down products, thank you very much. Whether you're a large or small organization, boodleAI has the ability to help you find donor prospects with affinity, philanthropic inclination, and wealth based on how your donor prospects appear in external big data. And even my firm Aspire Research Group, LLC, can and does use boodleAI to augment our prospect identification process with the organizations that we serve. It's an amazing product, and you definitely want to be an early adopter before they get popular and the price goes up. Again, you can find them at www.boodle.ai. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come check out the Prospect Research Institute's learning community. It's a membership community with powerful resources, great discussions, and comprehensive courses. Check it out at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org. I'd love to have you join me as a member of the learning community. See you there.